What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic. As always, it's Friday morning. I just got a new haircut. It's very short, so I don't know how I feel about it. Anyway, we are once again checking out another random enough band. I would say this is probably the most random band I've received a request to do. This has been requested by, let me just confirm the name, it's Flogin, who is from Patreon and has again made use of the Patreon album tier, and we've gotten very few pieces of information about this band. Basically what Flogin has said is that the band and album in question, band being Subterranean Masquerade, and the album is their 2015 album The Great Bazaar. It's a concept album and I don't know how to really describe the band. They are Israeli based, okay, and have a very unique sound, but it's definitely some kind of prog. So I've got the prog scarf here. Now, we haven't got like full confirmation this is prog. It's 38 minutes long, so like kind of not even really that prog territory in terms of album length. But I guess we'll decide if the prog scarf gets put on midway through the video. But yeah, no point delving too deep into this. I will listen, and I guess if this is your first time listening along, this is going to be a cool experience because we're both going to be checking out a brand new band for the first time. They have like 2,000 monthly listeners, so this is again why this album tier is such a cool like venture, I guess, because even like Grayscale Season, that band only has like 2,000 monthly listeners, and if that taught me anything, it means that the monthly listeners literally means absolutely nothing, because that album is absolutely phenomenal and will definitely be one of the best albums that I've heard all year. I can already call it. So we'll see. These guys have 2,366 monthly listeners. So yeah, interested to hear this one. Let's go. Alright. I was kind of wondering if we're going to get like a Middle Eastern sound straight away. So different to anything I've heard so far, so that's already a good sign. We have English lyrics as well by the looks of things, so at least I'll be able to follow. Yeah, very prog intro. Do you know what? The prog scarf, it's just going on. Really teasing this vocalist.
Welcome back to this world. In it birds sing their early morning mantra, baby cry, alarming notes, a high-paced tempo, and that's the way I want, washing those dirty hands before it starts, before we going on this lonesome search, endless race, pleased to meet you. Welcome to the Masquerade.
The piano on this, nice touch. Very, very different to anything we've done recently, or ever, to be honest.
Now stop it, let me out.
like the production might be missing a little bit of like a warmth to it, but still sounds pretty well composed. Everything's put together nicely. Loving the piano. Yeah, it's so prog. Most certainly prog from what I've heard so far. What is this reminding me of? Oh, wow. That small passage right about here really reminded me of a band we've done within the last, I want to say, 3 months. This right here. Yeah, here. Oh, lads, help me with this one. That is gonna annoy me. This is so familiar. I'm loving the percussion in this. Very different. I have like the marching band, drums, the whatever that thing is. I can see it, but I don't know what it's called. This thing that almost sounds like a metronome. It's not my favorite like music, but it's very refreshing to listen to because I do so much of the same genre that this is so different. But it's still buried in that prog feel. That melody is... What is that? Oh fuck, I hate when I can't figure out what things remind me of. It's almost like a football chant or something. Very uplifting, very fun. I think they might have used every single instrument on earth in this one track, so yeah. The prog scarf is staying on. That was a good track. I mean, not my favorite, like it's not... Oh, there's birds as well. This is beautiful. Yeah, like, is it my go-to music? Not really, but again, it's always nice to get something different and experience different sounds, especially something like Middle Eastern. I don't think I've ever heard of any other bands from the Middle East. Maybe there is some, but as far as I'm aware, I don't think I've checked out any. I could be wrong on that one now, but let me know, I guess. Again, these vocals are reminding me a lot of another band. Prog. There's so many similarities in this. Is it like Steven Wilson? This part sounds a little bit like Steven Wilson. Just with like the piano and overall composition. It's quite like hopeful sounding. But then the vocals kind of remind me like a Cannibal Corpse. Is it kind of... Is it? That kind of vocal style. There's that bass coming in, but it's just being used as kind of like a mood setter as opposed to like lifting up the mix. This feels so nostalgic. I think it is like Porcupine Tree, Steven Wilson vibes I'm getting from this. But it's maybe just lacking a little bit in the overall production. It doesn't sound bad, but that climactic moment with the little sound effect that rolled into this part here maybe didn't have the same effect because it didn't feel like it was really like, it didn't have that bassy feel to it. It's kind of thinned out, you know.
Just want to walk away, reliving that feeling I once had. A box full of videotapes is all that's left, unless I pay the price.
Not a bad track. I liked the atmospheric build in the middle. I'm sorry, but I still think I'm missing a band that's very obvious that these guys sound a lot like, just with the vocalist, the way he's like speaking. Oh, that's good. I got chills here, I'm not gonna lie, that's different. That was quite nice. Yeah, I don't think there's anyone questioning whether or not this is prog or not. The piano is still ever present, which is nice. It just keeps an overall, I feel like it keeps the overall feel and drive of the album in place. Each song is sounding quite different, but the piano being ever present just keeps it kind of molds it together, I think. Definitely helps. And then the violin is kind of similar. It's like these additional instruments that keep you in the overall thematical feel of the album. This track's called Naijen, and we have no lyrics for it, so we'll have to put up with just listening. But we have what instrument is that? It's not a flute. It's like the thing that they summon the snakes with. Again, really cool use of so many different instruments throughout this. Oh yeah, this is what I mean by this being so different. There's that piano just holding it all together again. Even though we're getting so many different new instruments and so many different sounds, the piano just always creeps back in. A little bit of bass again. The bass is like more of like a mood setter and like a tension builder, as opposed to like the overall mix being held by it, you know? Which I am the biggest fan of sometimes, because I like that more modern sounding production, and generally that is, bass is kind of a staple of that. Just really like rounds out the mix. But I understand the album's 8 years old, so it is definitely not modern production. I believe it's actually a cobra charming instrument. Am I correct in saying that? That's what I'm looking up here. Because I just got like visions of like cartoons I'd seen when I'm younger. Now I don't know if that's actually accurate to... Is it a pungi flute? So it is a flute. I think that's the instrument that we heard at the start. Let me hear this. That is just the vision that I have in my head when I hear that. I looked up cobra charming instrument and it says, snake charming is the practice of appearing to hypnotize a snake, often a cobra, by playing and waving around an instrument called a pungi. I don't know if that's what we're hearing, but it's just the vibe I'm getting off this. So if anyone does know for certain, let me know. Yeah, that's really unique. I like this. I'm gonna like this just because it's so different than anything I've heard before. Well, we did already hear it, so I'm gonna skip forward. And yeah, that one's an interesting one. Definitely breaks up my playlist a lot, because my playlist over the last few weeks has just been like really Western metalcore and prog, of course, but this is so different, which is already a plus. Like, I don't think the music is my style much, but because it's such a breath of fresh air, it's just nice. I guess it is my style of music. Like, it's prog at the end of the day, but I just don't know if I'd listen to it many times over. I love that. What is that? Let me go back. I love that there. What is that? Is that... It's like a full-on orchestra. Oh. This is like that kind of music that in a live setting would be absolutely unrivaled. Like, so amazing. Like, that was fucking... I want to hear that one more time. That is, so I'm liking that one as well. It's just so different. I think that's violin. Like, all of this is definitely violin, so I'm guessing it. Beautiful drawn out prog intros.
I'm waiting for something to come. I wait for a breakthrough, I wait for a sign. I wander the streets, no purpose, no time. I'm nodding my head.
Some of the lyric delivery.
Often I go back to the picture of my little boy.
Oh yeah, okay, I'm pausing here because I have a few things to say. Some of the like spoken vocals and lyrics do come across as a little bit like Disney. It's kind of the feel that I'm getting. It just feels like I'm watching like a cartoon or something. Even with like the pungin flute, I think it's called, that one. What's it called? The pungi. That flute, which I again, I don't know if that's definitely what it is, but that flute really reminded me of like cartoons with like the cobra taming, because that's how I'd be familiar with it, just from like cartoons and that kind of thing. So again, forgive my ignorance if there's obviously more ways to know about that, but that's just how I'm familiar with it. Again, not sure if that's definitely what it is, but that like lead up to this moment here really felt like it just felt like it felt nostalgic, even though I have no idea what as to why. Maybe it's just because it's kind of like reminding me of my childhood, like kind of watching like Disney, I guess, and those more childish shows. So all this spoken, it's very like narrator-esque. He's like narrate again. It's a concept-based song or album. I'm not really paying too much attention to the concepts, more getting a feel for the actual music itself. So it just feels very narrator. But I did really like this this melody in the vocal. This here. Yeah, often I go back to the... Yeah, that's gonna be catchy. That's catchy as fuck.
Gentle fantasy. Suddenly it's pitch black and I cannot see a blanket of longing surrounding
me. Yeah, this is so fucking chilled, man. I can't wait to hear this chorus again. Often I go back to the picture of my little... Yeah, that's a really catchy chorus. So chilled out as well. Really, really like this one. Sometimes I just need albums like this just to break things up, you know? You can't get fatigue from listening to the same style albums all the time. Although we've been on a bit of a tear with really good albums, it's just nice to get something so far field, you know, far left field. Don't love these vocals, which I don't think will be any surprise to anyone. Here we go. Give me that chorus again. Yeah, oh! They got me. I'm guessing that it'll probably hit even harder knowing the context of the album, but again, just paying attention to the music. Oh, even this part. Cry anymore. That was a lovely track. Fucking hell, that was really nice. Best track on the album for me. Beautiful orchestral elements at the start. Probably the best violin moment. Very like nostalgic with the almost Disney-esque narration, and then obviously the most memorable chorus for me. So that track is a big tick on the list, and of course we've already liked it. It was playlist. Even when I heard the orchestral elements at the start, it was already playlist. Oh, this is so cool again. Okay, we got like a Middle Eastern Metallica-esque riff here. Alright boys, let's get a bit heavier, let's see.
Long time ago lived a man, His Majesty the King of Kings. He ruled his land with might and strength. He conquered the beast.
This is getting really good, I'm not gonna lie. At the start it was kind of music that I don't think I'd listen to much, but now it's kind of like, right, this is so different that it's really grabbed my attention. The little bends, just breaking up the riff. making it very progressive, forward moving. Still a bit groovy as well.
His name cannot be written, yet for centuries adored. In my neighborhood, not far away, a man is looking for a treat. He loves to watch those films.
They're like really building on it with each step. It's like they keep adding in new elements to it. We got like a and then we can hear the piano going ding, ding, ding. Like every step they keep getting more and more progressive. Let's hear this again. And listen to just the build, the constant like build of tension. And it was so seamless out of that like really cool Metallica-esque riff.
In my neighborhood, not far away, a man is looking for a treat. He loves to watch those films of them, naked, strangled and beat.
I hope they come back to that distorted riff that we got in the intro.
Cannot be written, yet for centuries adored. 'Cause man invented demon.
They've covered every section of the spectrum here with distorted guitars. We've got some acoustic there for the first time, I believe. Piano, that Punjin flute. Again, it's up for debate whether or not that's what it is. Whatever is going on in the background here. We've got violin, I think some trumpets at some point. A full orchestra. Obviously different percussion elements in the start of the album. Really cool overall. Very diverse sounding. It's very hard to pin them down to one particular sound, but that Middle Eastern vibe is still very much so there. Honestly, I was just looking at my notes for this track, and I completely forgot to write down anything for that one. I kind of got lost in it a bit, which is a good sign. But this is, I believe, the last track, Father and Son, 9 minutes long, so we're going full prog here. But this has been a very pleasant surprise album, not gonna lie. When I seen the 2,000 monthly listeners, although normally I would have thought, oh god, here we go, this is gonna be like, you know, who knows what we're getting into here, but the low monthly listener count clearly means nothing, because the last two we've done is Grayscale Season with their Do You Like Violence album, which is fantastic, and this now as well. It's like, quite literally, don't judge a book by its cover. Except it's not even judging a book by its cover. It's like judging a book by how many people have bought it, essentially.
Hope it's not too late.
So hopefully these videos help to shine light on some of these bands, you know?
For leaving you. Hope it's still alright. And we wouldn't fight. You're my source of light. The stars that shine at night. When the clouds show up. I've waited for the day we will meet again. It's been too long, I know, my friend. A raging sea took me to a far-off place where sirens weeps a prayer for grace. For the love of God, have you lost your mind? Please stop this pity cry. For living in peace in dark times like this. You have to take your chance. Wake up your shell. You have to be yourself.
I'm not the biggest fan of these harsher vocals. I'm still like working through my own thought process and trying to understand what it is about certain harsh vocals that I like, and then other elements. Like these, for example, I just don't really like.
It's your soul I like to claim.
I don't know if it like fits what we've heard so far.
To stop those voices.
And I feel like for something that has been such a beautiful album and has been so unique and so diverse across the board, I just feel like this would maybe hurt the band a little bit, because I'm actually just taking that a point here that this is a quite a relaxing album, but there's not necessarily like very traditional relaxing elements to it. Obviously there's that orchestral sound, there's a lot of violin, piano, which is quite relaxing, and some of the vocal harmonies of the clean vocalist, I don't know if he's the same person, but whoever's doing the clean vocals, those moments are quite relaxing, and the overall flow is quite chilled out. So I don't know, like I feel like one of the points I've written here is that I can see this being like good background music that I could almost even have on like when I'm like making lunch or whatever in my kitchen. Sometimes I'll put on music in the background, and a lot of the time it's like my mom, like, Drew, please turn that off. And sometimes I'll have something on and my dad will be kind of listening to it, and he'll kind of ask me questions. He'll be like, oh, who's this? Or like, you know, you'll kind of guess when he'll like something. So I feel like this could be one of those things I could have on lightly in the background, but I feel like it gets a bit jarring when the heavier vocals come in. It's just not really for me. I don't know if people, like, I don't really see where this would come into play, where these vocals sound like really good to people. You know, I get there's harsh vocals that sometimes work really well in certain bands, like some of the deathcore bands that I really like, some of the metalcore bands. But I feel like it doesn't feel like there's much emotion tied behind. Maybe that's what it is, and maybe that's what I need to start focusing on, because I don't think there's much emotion. Now again, I'm not really keeping up to date with the lyrics and the overall theme, so maybe it might tie into the lyrics that are actually being, you know, screamed or growled. But I think, like, for example, bands that scream certain lines, there's more emotion to it. It's like you can hear the voice like cracking a bit, and it just feels like they're only screaming to get that message across more. But this feels like it's more so just like to do it for the sake of like doing it, I guess. It doesn't feel like it really fits that well into the track for me. So maybe that's the only thing I could really critique them on so far, and then maybe the production as well. But we'll discuss all the pros and cons at the end. I feel like the production has to be very crisp to get away with that level of noise and that level of intensity. I like a wall of sound, and I don't think their production is clean enough to really pull off that sound. Especially for me anyway. I just really like every scenario has to be perfect for that to really work. But I guess it makes you appreciate these moments more, so okay. It's like the most fucked up metronome ever. Is that an organ they've now used as well? They've just touched every single instrument. Vocals coming in again, piano just still there. Still very Middle Eastern. They've nailed that theme throughout. It almost gives you like a time machine feel. Or not a time machine, a teleportation device where you can just go to another part of the world. Something about that like chord progression that do no 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 is so that like almost stairway down is so nostalgic. Feels like every game and every like stereotypical Middle Eastern sound. There it is again. I guess it's like hearing like the fiddle or like really traditional like Irish dancing music. It's like almost stereotyped to a certain extent. That's like the equivalent of hearing that. It just instantly puts me, no matter what kind of music it is that I'm listening. There's no way they just cut it out that abruptly. That can't have been intentional. Okay, someone's getting fired. That can't have been right. For an album that was so well composed, they absolutely fucked up on the last 20 seconds. What's going on? Unless it's like they didn't even do like a kind of like a cassette player or like a record scratch where it's almost as if someone just turned off the music. It just stopped. That was a major fuck up. Okay guys, I'm back and let's just go through it track by track and then we'll do our pros and cons at the end and really round up the album. So, Early Morning Mantra was the first track and let's just quickly get the album up here and see. So there's 7 tracks, again, a relatively short album, low song count, I guess, only 7 tracks. We liked 2 tracks in a row, which was Nigen and Blanket of Longing. We will get to them, but again, the tracks were relatively short. There was about 3 or 4 outliers, one being 6.5 minutes long, one being 9 minutes long, and then 2 tracks 5.5 minutes long. So I guess, you know, kind of in that prog realm, but then there was a few tracks, you know, there was a 4-minute track, a 3-minute track, and then a just under a 5-minute track as well. So I guess, yeah, a bit of a mixed bag in terms of length. So it didn't feel, you know, any longer than 40 minutes. It didn't feel any shorter. It felt in and around that time. So, yeah, like sometimes these albums can either drag or feel like they're really short, even though, you know, they're 40 minutes or so. It's funny how 40 minutes is always the same, but it can just feel so different depending on how the project is composed. But yeah, so let's just go through my bullet points again. If you see me like typing throughout, it's not me replying to comments or anything like that. It's me paying attention to the music and putting down my thoughts so I can discuss them in detail after. So Early Morning Mantra, which was the intro, was instantly so unique. Like I knew we were in for something completely different. I didn't know what it was going to sound like overall. I just knew it was going to be different regardless. So that was always kind of fun. I love the mellow speaking narration vocals with the Middle Eastern instrumentals. Again, so different. It was really the instrumentals that made that like so unique to me. So that was always fun. Every instrument on earth, and this is only the first track, and I'd already written the note that we'd use like every single instrument at that point. The percussion elements were so versatile. We had so many different percussion elements, which you don't really hear in a lot of the like Western prog and core music that we listen to so often on the channel. There's a cool like birds sound effect added into the mix at the end. Some cons for this track, I would say maybe lacking some bass, and that kind of stayed true for a few songs after that until we really got into the album. But then I think my brain just kind of adjusted to it. But I would still say overall the mix was definitely not my favorite in terms of the bass that was filtered through it. But again, it's a 2015 album, so obviously production has changed massively. It's not exactly a modern prog album. Anyway, so piano and trumpets used again, which was pretty cool to hear. I always love when they just add, you know, not so common instruments into the mix, which is always fun. And then we had Reliving the Feeling. This was where I really got like Steven Wilson vibes. Very easy listening with the exception of some vocals that reminded me of what I want to say was like Cannibal Corpse with the don't like that vocal style. Again, it may not be Cannibal Corpse, but it's definitely like a band that I've listened to before. You guys can let me know if it is Cannibal Corpse that I'm thinking of. Again, production like very old school sounding, not bad, but I enjoy the more polished modern sounds, so I am a little bit biased, unfortunately. Then we had Tour Diary, which was the first track that gave me chills with the violins, very proggy in this one. This felt very proggy. The ambience changed quite frequently. We just kept getting like mood swings around the track, which again gave it that prog feel. And then there was a beautiful guitar solo, which kind of was the first real example of the technicality of the band, especially from the guitar standpoint. There was some technical moments, but I think anytime you get a solo, you kind of get an idea of what the band is capable of from a, you know, guitar standpoint. So yeah, up to that point, I wasn't entirely sure. So that kind of, you know, gave me some insight into the musicianship from a guitar standpoint. And then the piano again was ever present. Obviously, we'd gotten piano in the first two tracks, but when we got it for the third time, it was almost kind of like, right, this is becoming a reoccurring theme with the instrumental. So that was interesting as well. And again, it just gives the album some continuity, and it just feels like an overall piece of work as opposed to just a random singles thrown together. Nigen was the like snake summoning sound, which is the only way I can describe it, or the cobra summoning flute that we got. Again, let me know if I'm wrong with that, if I'm actually picking that up wrong, but that was the vibe I got, where it was like that flute that they used to summon the snakes with, which I believe again is called a punjai. Could be pronouncing that wrong, but that's what it sounded like to me. This one felt very Middle Eastern, so unique and very, very refreshing, because again, we got a lot of that like Western prog and metalcore. Again, the piano ever present, keeping it all, you know, packed in tightly together. Blanket of Longing, beautiful orchestral elements in this track. The violin was absolutely amazing as well. It was just so fucking cool. I kept bringing it back to that moment with diddle. I can't exactly remember what. This was probably my favorite track though on the album. Feels very Disney at moments in the intro with the narration, which I kind of liked. It was very nostalgic to me, and it had the best and most memorable chorus, which is often I go back to that picture of my little, often I go back. I can't remember exactly the melody of the hook line, but the lyrics were often I go back to that picture of my little boy, which is really nice. You know, chills again. Spectre was the second last track, and to be honest, I kind of forgot to take down notes. I got lost in this track a little bit, which I think is very, you know, much so a compliment. So yeah, I'd have to go back to that track. Father and Son percussion stood out on this album. I don't know why I said on this album. I think I meant to say this track. Yeah, the percussion really stood out. The outro was a real showcase of musicianship, plus included another instrument being the organ, I believe. So I think it was an organ thrown in there at the end. But then to end it off, unfortunately, they kind of fucked up with the overall mix or master. I don't know who was in charge of that, but someone fucked up and just cut the song off. Again, I know there can be like an artistic flair where these things kind of like are done intentionally, but it didn't sound good at all. It didn't sound like it was supposed to be done. So it just feels like such a, like almost like a rushed thing at the end of the album to just get it out, even though like there's a clear error in it. That seems like a massive fuck up, but won't look too deep into it because the rest of the album was really cool. So I'll just do my cons and pros to wrap it up. So the cons were maybe lacking a little bit in the production, sounds a little thinned out in parts of the intro, but becomes less noticeable when your ears adjust, is what I have written here. Not the biggest fan of the harsh vocals, lacking some emotional impact. I think it feels like it's just there to be a metal band at some point. So yeah, I think the best way to compare it is like certain bands that I listen to, it's like the line that they're screaming or certain parts, it just feels like they're putting a lot more emotion into it, whereas this one just felt like it was just doing lines that could have easily been in clean vocals, but they wanted to be like a metal band, so they had to do it. That's what it feels like. Again, that's not necessarily saying that's what it is, but it's just what it feels like to me. Again, the huge fuck up at the end is definitely a con. It kind of like makes you feel like there was not much effort put into the outro and they just rushed it a bit. Don't know what was going on there, but yeah. Pros, one of the most unique albums I've heard. Again, so refreshing. It breaks up the monotony of the Western core and prog music that we do so often. Very relaxing. I can see it as a great background music that might catch the attention of casual listeners. So for example, in the kitchen, like I mentioned with my parents or whatever, my dad might be like, oh, that's very unique. You know, like he doesn't really give a fuck about music, but he's quite interested when I have stuff on. He'd be like, turn that off, or he'd be like, oh, that's actually quite nice. You know, that's pretty cool. What band is this? So I could see that being like a very unique album to him, or just a casual listener in general. They'd hear the like, you know, just that unique Mediterranean sound, I guess. Or sorry, not Mediterranean. Where the fuck? I'm getting that mixed up. Anyway, versatility is off the charts on this album. For an album below 40 minutes, they managed to create so many different atmospheres with so many different instruments. So yeah, the instrument count on this album was insane. We got so many different sounds. Percussion elements are on point. The atmosphere that was created was really unique. And the overall orchestral composition was really cool as well. So guys, I'm going to rate this album a strong, I'd say an 7.8 out of 10. I would give this a 7.8 out of 10. It's not exactly my music of choice. It wouldn't be like my go-to music, but I can definitely appreciate some of the, you know, unique variables that are included. And there was also some fuck-ups in it, and it did sound like it maybe needs a little bit more polishing. But again, it's quite an old album. So yeah, that is my thoughts overall, guys. Let me know if you do agree with what I've said. If you disagree, you know, add some feedback in the comments if you've ever heard of these guys. Is it your first time? Either way, guys, drop a like in the video. It would be much appreciated. Shout out to my man, Flodgin, who suggested this album. I don't know if he's involved in the band. Maybe he is. If so, congrats. Very good album. Keep it up. And yeah, guys, that's all for me. Make sure you're subbed to the channel if you do want to make use of the Patreon album tier where I will review an album of your choice. Then do get involved. All the links for Patreon will be in the description, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm signing out. Look after yourselves. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.